into it. Hi, welcome everybody. This is Hindsight 2020, a musical retrospective. On this podcast, what we do is we talk about records that I think are culturally or musically impactful, and we discuss it track by track, and we talk about why we think that record matters so much. Here's our freaking guest, Victoria,
Doing
hopping in
good.
to say hi,
Yeah.
and
They said hi.
and and yeah. So on today's episode, we are talking about Mac DeMarco's two. And for this episode, we have, as always, my co-host Arnoldo Treviño. How you doing?
Hello. Shalom.
We have a recurring guest who is currently at work. So we are always doing something new on this podcast. We've got a Raymond Cabrera. Raymond, if you have the time, come say what's up.
Hey, how's it going? I'm doing good.
What is Raymond doing?
Are you behind the bar right now, Raymond?
Apparently not.
Like maybe.
That'd be cool if he was live streaming.
And then today we also have first-time guest and from what I've heard, fan of the podcast. I just want to. It feels so nice saying that. We've got Eugene. I don't know your last name. Sorry, bud. So just
you're good.
Eugene on the pod. How's it going, man?
Hey, it's going pretty good. Thanks a lot for having me on, man. And yeah, I'm a pretty big fan of the podcast. I like it a lot.
Nice. We got a fan. First.
I just want my mom to hear you say that, but she's busy.
The podcast is great.
But yeah, fan of the. So on this episode of the podcast, we will be discussing Mac DeMarco's record 2. This is actually the first time I've sat through an entire Mac DeMarco project, so I was really excited about it. I've always heard the name. He was pretty big in the scene. So I was glad that this was suggested by a friend of the podcast, Roger Ramirez, who was supposed to be on tonight's episode, but due to issues with family, he wasn't able to make it today. So before we start with the episode, we lost Raymond, by the way. Before we
Another episode.
move on to before we move on to the record, I just want to say our thoughts are with Roger. We love you, bud. We hope everything is good, and we hope to have you back on soon so we can finish that Carly Rae episode because that was a lot of fun. With that being said, let's talk about today's album, Mac DeMarco's 2. The way we like to do this is we like to go track by track so we can get our thoughts on, every song, lyrically, musically, everything, so we can get a better idea of the impact of the record. That being said, the opening track to the album is "Cooking Up Something Good." Cooking up something good. So let's go in order. Get everybody's thoughts on it. Arnold, what are your thoughts on the album's opening track, "Cooking Up Something Good"?
I will say you have Mac opening up this album pretty well. It's got a nice little. He's got his signature twangy guitar. It's a good beat. And lyrics, he's talking about people in his life, alluding to his father's meth addiction or dealings, how he using smokes and nicotine gum to aid in his issues. I would honestly say this is a good Mac DeMarco song, but when you and we'll talk about it later, with the album, it doesn't really stray off too different. But for an opener, I'd say this is a good, lively opener. No complaints about it. Good guitar work, good instrumentals.
All right, okay. I think that's a very fair point. Eugene, your thoughts on opening track, "Cooking Up Something Good"? How do you feel about this track as an opener? How do you feel about this track in general?
I think it's pretty good. I think it really sets the tone for the record too, especially in the way how I kind of view it as well. Especially with how in the first verse, he talks about, his mom cooking dinner. His dad's kind of just chilling. He's upstairs smoking cigarettes. This is just kind of where I feel he's at with his life. in the grand scheme of things. And then again, like in the second verse, it talks about his dad cooking meth in the basement, his brother selling it, and that's kind of like the dark side of his life. And everyone has a dark side of their lives. All of our lives are, we have some good things and some bad things. And I feel like the whole album is in a way just kind of about like where he's at with his life too. And so with this starting it off, I feel like he couldn't have put a different song there to make it better, if that makes sense.
Mhm. No, yeah,
Yeah.
I get that. Yeah, I like that. I could agree with that. Raymond, your thoughts on cooking up something good?
I personally love this track. It's it has like a feel good vibe to it, despite the lyrics. But I love the kind of like the music aspect of it, like the instrumentals and stuff like that. Uh, and overall, I think it's a really good opening track for the song for the album.
All right, yeah, I would agree with all three of you. I think it is a great opener to the record. It really does set the tone for it. I think this is like the best, the best '70s song not written in the '70s. It's got that southern rock twangy feel, which I never realized I liked as much as I did until I heard it done this
Mhm.
way. And yeah, I do like how there's a duality between the sound of the song and the lyrics of the song. Again, the name alone sounds very innocuous, sounds very innocent, cooking up something good. But then when you put that in reference to cooking up meth or cooking drugs, that the meaning of the phrase changes entirely. And I think it's a testament to how good and how happy the song sounds, just how pleasant the song sounds, that it took me repeated listens to catch the fact that it is about such a dark topic. Because at face value, I'm like, this is just such a nice song. This is such a good song. I'm just gonna drive around
Yeah.
listening to this song. And it wasn't until I actually sat down and listened for the sake of this podcast that I was like, holy shit, wait a minute, there's something else going on in here. So, yeah, it does set the tone really well for what is the best and worst thing about the album for me, which is the fact that it is an overall really pleasant album. And it's very easy to escape the nuances of it because you just can get lost in that pleasantness, I guess. Like, that's a hurdle that I had to overcome a lot with this record, was get past the fact that musically it's just pleasant. And
Yeah.
that was hard for me to get into it lyrically, because I'm just thinking, oh, all of this is just meant to sound really nice. All of this just sounds really nice. I just kind of want to shut my brain off and just listen to it. you know
Mhm.
do they allow dogs at the bus mill, Raymond?
Yes.
We hear the good fan.
He really
Yeah.
likes Mac.
They're very excited about the podcast.
They love
They're big
Raymond.
fans of Mac DeMarco.
They like cooking up something good, Fran. And
Yeah.
I think they like this song a lot. I forgot to put the banner up, but there we go. Cooking up something good. That's the first track. I also forgot to mention like the vocals in this track. Like I'm not that huge into Mac DeMarco, but compared to the other tracks, I do like his tone in this. Uh, you know, Mommy's in the kitchen. Like it's a pretty good tone that he's got. Not too different from other stuff, but different enough. If you get catch my drift.
I like how a lot of his songs have some swing to it too, like especially in the
Yeah.
guitar riffs.
Like
Yeah.
it's got like a little like I guess emotion or like a head bobby. Like I'm gonna stick my neck out like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, it is a really fun sounding song. And one complaint, not even a complaint, it's like a minor note that I have about this record overall, but I heard it in this song, is I wish his vocals were maybe just mixed a little higher so we could hear him a little more. But
Mhm.
maybe that's a stylistic choice, just add to the laid back sound of the record, or the lo-fi feel of it. So I kind of forgave it off of that idea that it was meant to sound like that. But yeah, that's just a little note that I have. But let's move into the second track, which was, I think we referenced earlier in conversation, Dreaming. Guys, how do you feel about Dreaming? Arnold, thoughts on this track?
I will say compared to cooking up something good and with dreaming, you go to a song that's not too different in sound, but I think it passes since we're still early in the album. So you can kind of get away with that. You're kind of maybe just extending on your point, or just kind of feeling the groove. So you can totally just pass this along like from the first track. Um, the song, I have a little bit of an issue with because it has a little bit of toxic masculinity. He has this idea of a perfect girl, and he acknowledges that that he can only have her in her dreams, and having the perfect girl is obviously something that's illogical. So he's just gonna keep dreaming about like different girls. I don't, you know, I don't that don't sit too well with me. That don't sit too kindly. It's a little bit toxic in my opinion.
I feel that.
All
I
right.
feel
Well,
that.
yeah. Well,
Yeah.
that is definitely a point to be made. Eugene, what are your thoughts on Dreaming?
This song is probably my all-time favorite song Max ever written. I remember learning it on guitar the first time. It took me a while. It's in such a weird tuning, but it's really fun to play. Um, for the longest time, this song just it really I felt it so hard, just in my heart with this one. Uh, and again with what you said about that line too, how you took it as kind of toxic. I take it differently. I feel like sorry, I lost my train of thought. Just one sec. I just kind of feel like it's something that like he envisions something too perfect that maybe like he shouldn't touch it in a way. Like
Mhm.
maybe it should just be left alone. Kind of thing. That's kind of how I took that part of the song as well.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah,
Yeah, that's
yeah.
pretty much it. Yeah, I really like the song.
I've always I feel like I am inclined to agree more with Eugene's take on it, but we'll get into
Mhm.
that in a minute. Raymond, what are your thoughts on Dreaming?
I'm gonna be completely honest. I forgot which song this was on the track. I'm a little underprepared with this, so I
Hey,
It's where he's like, tree man, I'm a tree man.
it's totally cool. I know you hopped on this last minute. You're a total trooper. This is the second time you've jumped on a pod episode like an hour till. So
yeah.
yeah, dude. Raymond's the MVP of this show.
Oh yeah.
If I'm being completely honest. But yeah, so let me get into my thoughts on this track. I I like it. I feel like it definitely kind of lives up to its namesake. There is similarities to cooking up something good, but this does have a very dreamy feel to it, especially the chorus, the way he sings the chorus, the instrumentation, the vocal effects that are added in there a little bit, the reverb on the vocals
Mhm.
adds to this dreamy vibe to the song, which I really like. This is definitely one of the highlights on the albums for me, and it's barely the second track, but I feel this one a lot. I like it. I do agree with Eugene's interpretation of the lyrics. Every time I hear it, it does sound more like you know something that is like too good to be true, I guess. So you'd rather not ruin it by yeah, you know what I mean. Like it's too good to
Yeah.
be true, so I don't want to touch it, so I don't fuck it up, type of
Mhm.
deal. That's more
Even
how
though he
I
says,
saw it.
even though he says he'll keep dreaming or keep, you know.
Well, yeah, because like you'd rather just dream about it than risk it, I guess. Which is it's still not a positive message. Like, hey man, shoot your shot. It's 2020, go for it. But
Mhm.
it's definitely something that I felt. I've been in that situation, a couple times. So this is definitely a relatable track. It's really good. It lives up to its title. It is a dreamy, dreamy track. Yeah, I enjoyed it. It's definitely uh, one of my favorite tracks on the album. But if we're talking about a song that I like better than this, let's go on to the next track, which is "Freaking Out the Neighborhood." Uh, I want to hear y'all's thoughts on "Freaking Out the Neighborhood." Arnold, what do you think about this track?
I will say, like this song is an immediate hit. I think out of the album, this is one of my favorite songs. You you're punched in the face with an upbeat song. Mac, you know, shows his white privilege in this song. You know, it's in the lyrics it's composed to his mom that it's like an apology for his youthful adventure, but you know that he'll come back fine, so it's okay. But I'm just fucking with you. Um, he's showing his white privilege, saying that he could do whatever he wants, but and he'll come home just fine. Um, but no, honestly, like this song, like it's got good guitar. The beats are the drums are a little bit different compared to the first two songs, and I can get behind that. Like I like it, and I like how he's kind of in this album, addressing certain people, and he's writing to his mom saying that he's sorry for some stuff that he's done. And apparently, in an interview, it was about his aunt seeing a video of him stick some percussive instruments up his ass during a show or something. So, I will say A+ to that. You're not
It's hilarious. I had no idea
you're
about
not
that.
you're not scared to say what actually happened.
Hell yeah.
All right, Eugene, thoughts on "Freaking Out the Neighborhood"?
I agree with you, Arnold. When this song comes on, especially at one of his shows, people just start moving. You know, it's one of those songs that just kind of like just catches you, and you can't help but kind of move to it. Very poppy. I like it a lot, especially with the guitars. And I like how the song too is kind of about like being an outcast and kind of like being different. You know, like you're the one in your neighborhood that's catching your neighbor's eyes. Like oh, if something bad happens, it's probably because of you, kind of thing. And it's like about kind of like taking responsibility for it and kind of being like proud of who you are in that way, even though maybe in some cases you probably shouldn't. But yeah, that's pretty much how I feel. How I feel about the song.
All right, yeah, yeah. Let's let's unmute Raymond and the dogs. Let's see what they've got to say. Raymond, what are your thoughts on "Freaking Out the Neighborhood"?
I personally love this track. This is one of my favorite tracks, in all honesty. I'm not somebody who speed dances, but every time this track comes on, it makes me want to be like, what is it, flash dance? Or what are they called?
I'm a maniac, oh no.
But yeah, Freaking Out the Neighborhood is definitely one of my favorite tracks on this album. Uh, I love this track, and yeah, it's a good one.
All right, yeah, yeah. So I will also agree with all of you guys. This is definitely a highlight for me on the track listing. I think it's the fact that it is faster than most of the songs on the record. And I also really like it because it reminds me almost of this other band that I'm really into. Arnold knows this 80s Spanish alternative rock band, Los Hombres G, with the jangly guitars and the all of that. I kind of catch that vibe from it, and that is
Mhm.
absolutely one of my favorite things to just get my feet moving. I do like the lyrical aspect of just kind of owning up to kind of fucking shut up and being like, hey, I'm sorry. That's kind of what I do. My bad. Uh, it is a very, very good song, and it does kind of hit you. Uh, it gets you to pay attention by being so different from everything that immediately precedes it and everything that immediately follows it. I thought when I first heard this record that you had like two kind of mid-tempo tracks, very chill, and then you get this song where things pick up. I thought things were gonna continue to pick up right along with it, so it definitely does kind of, it switches up the mood, which I appreciate, but it also kind of hurts it because I'm expecting something else along these lines to follow it, but then
Mhm.
we just kind of slow right back down. So I'm like excited to like, oh yeah, let's keep moving. Let's get into it. And then we just kind of come back down on the next track, which is Annie.
Annie.
Annie, guys, what are your thoughts on Annie?
So,
Arnold?
yeah, so Annie in this song is alcohol, just so people know. Um, I will say this song has some good guitar licks. I'm liking it's pretty decent. Like on the guitar, drums don't really do much for me, but it does kind of go back to the first two tracks. And I was hoping for a little bit more of a crescendo. Here's like after freaking out the neighborhood, maybe something more upbeat or something along the same lines. But you get something that's kind of mild and kind of puts you off. It put me off at least.
I feel that. Yeah, this track was kind of forgettable for me, to be honest. Even now, I listened to the record probably like 3 times in preparation for this, just to like actually think about it. I still don't even remember like the melody. But since you said that the song is kind of about alcohol, that really does change my perspective on it because I didn't really see that. I thought he was more so talking about like a childhood friend, like or maybe even a lover, just someone that kind of gets him when he feels like other people don't. But yeah, alcohol, like definitely could be that too. Like I see that for sure, and I feel like it's a great like prelude into the next song, Viceroy, since I kind of take that song as Vices, but we'll get more to that later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, okay. Raymond and the Dogs. What are your thoughts on Annie?
I like Annie, but it's definitely not one of my favorite tracks. In all honesty, it's a pretty solid track. I think it has like a nice flow to it, but overall, it's not something that I find myself going back to specifically whenever I listen to two. Uh, I'll go ahead and talk about it with the next track, but yeah, this track, I'll agree with Eugene that it's not a high point in the album, but it's not a low point. It's just kind of there. It's a good bridge between two good tracks, I guess.
Okay. Um, my thoughts on this track. I would say this is actually the first thing to me on this album that kind of feels like a dud. It feels like a low point for me. Again, it's very pleasant sounding, but I guess all of the tricks that Mac DeMarco employs all this on this song, we've already heard in like 2 or 3 songs that precede it. You know what I mean? I don't like the weird thing that he does on the pre-chorus or chorus of the song here, which is very reminiscent of something that he already did better on Dreaming. And then going back to the whole mid-tempo sound, the twangy guitars, all of that was already done on Dreaming and on the opening track, Freaking Out the Neighborhood. So this should have been the moment where something different happen. Or if you're gonna do the same things, it could have been employed a little differently, or maybe not do the same thing so close to each other. There's only like what one song, yeah, there's one song in between this and Dreaming where you have like the same kind of like extended note, kind of singing for the chorus. So yeah, if you do the same thing, just one song removed really lowers the impact on this particular song. So I couldn't really get into this one, even though knowing now that it is about alcohol did does change my perception of it lyrically. There wasn't enough in it musically that kind of kept me entertained, and for that reason, I kind of consider it, like a low point on the album for me, if I'm being completely honest. Like I said on my intro to this, or how I've said to both Arnold and Eugene, this kind of song, put it on a different project or put it on a playlist somewhere, and out of context of this record, this song is a highlight. I like this song. Put it somewhere else and I'd be really into it. But where it's placed on the album, having two songs that use the same elements that make up this song already coming before it, it doesn't work for me because I heard what this has to offer already. I don't know if that makes any sense. So
I feel
for
you.
that reason, yeah, for that reason, I couldn't really find myself getting into this one. But like I said, even the worst songs on this album sound nice. Nothing is ever outwardly awful. There's nothing in here that I'm just like, that fucking sucked. But rather, it's more like The low points for me are songs that are still good, but nowhere near as good as the rest of it, or not as inventive as other songs on the track listing. So yeah, this is not a bad song, but definitely the weakest one out of all the ones we've heard so far. It's it's kind of how I feel about this track. Um, with that being said, let's get into the next song on the record. We are getting into "Ode to Viceroy." "Ode to Viceroy." Arnold, how do you
Uh,
feel about this track?
so I will say, with just coming from Annie to this, the song doesn't change too much, but I can understand why. So Annie is about alcohol. Ode to Viceroy is like a letter to the cigarette brand that he prefers, which is Viceroy. It's not well known, and he's talked about this in an interview. So he dedicates this song to apologizing to maybe trying another brand at one point, but he wanted to come back to his dedicated smell or addiction or his brand of choice. So this kind of plays hand in hand with Annie. The guitar is good in this, a little bit different, but he's still not doing too much like uh, exciting, like putting excitement to like or changing up his repertoire compared to Annie. And maybe that's because alcohol and cigarettes, beer and smokes go hand in hand for him, and maybe he wanted to just that's why he had the pattern, one right after the other. But all in all, it sounds like something he's played not too long ago.
I feel that. Yeah, this was like the song that got me into Mac DeMarco. It was the first song I've ever heard of his. I was also a smoker at the time when I heard the song. So, of course, I'm like 18. My friends and I hear this. We're like, hell yeah, man, smoking cigarettes. And there's so many lines in it that, like, if you smoke, like, you totally get it. And it's completely relatable, especially like the whole first thing in the morning, let in the sun and open up my eyes. Like, at the time, I was a baker and I would go in at like 3 in the morning, have my break right when the sun's rising. I just listen to that song, and it just like really resonated with me at the time. And yeah, like in the context of the album too, knowing that Annie is about alcohol, I think it's really cool that they're together now, because when you're drunk, nothing's better than a cigarette. And so yeah, I feel like it's definitely kind of like a song that is just kind of catchy. It's just like a song that is cool, especially with all the instruments. Like it's well written. But yeah, I don't think it's like too deep or anything, especially in the context of the album.
All right. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Uh, let's get Raymond and the Dogs their thoughts on Viceroy. "Ode to Viceroy." Raymond, how do you feel about this one?
This is honestly one of my more favorite Mac DeMarco tracks. Um, it's probably somewhere in the top five. It's just a very like chill song. I really like the guitars on it. Um, I don't know. Overall, it's just such like a chill song, and yeah, I don't know. It it made me research Viceroys and try to buy a pack, even though they're only available in like Canada. So
It's
yeah,
actually an American brand too, so which is weird.
yeah, that is weird, and I've never seen them anywhere else.
Yeah.
I thought
Maybe
they
I
were
need to go
Australian.
across. I think they were American if I looked it up. Yeah, but
Oh, I
Uh,
just thought it was a different band.
hmm.
um, I I like this song. It's cool. I do like the idea, like Eugene said, knowing now that Annie is a song about alcohol. As soon as Arnold said that that song was about alcohol, I thought about this song and I made the same connection, like pairing the two songs, alcohol and cigarettes together, make for a good combo. Um, I like this song. It works really well instrumentally. Again, not so different from what he's been doing so far. I think the only thing that stops this from being a highlight to me is that it sounds, even though I've been saying every song here sounds pretty similar, this song sounds even more like another song on this album, and it sounds almost identical to a song that is the standout track to me. So that's the only thing that kind of keeps me from loving this track is that it's overshadowed by another track that we'll get into later that sounds almost exactly like this, but maybe just a little bit better. So this is where I start to notice the problem that I have with the album, that everything just sounds so pleasant, and everything just sounds so pleasant because it almost sounds the same. There's very little deviation from the formula of Mac DeMarco's songwriting. Everything has kind of followed the same steps, the same ideas. That's the reason that made Freaking Out the Neighborhood sound like such a highlight on this first half of the record, is the fact that it sounds so much different from everything else. And even then, the only thing that made it sound that much more different is the fact that it's a little faster. Everything else has been kind of following the same blueprint and not doing too much to deviate from it. And I started to notice that a lot more when I connected this track to that other track that I feel it sounds a lot like. But we'll get to that when we get to that. For now, let's get into track 6 on the record, Robson Girl. What are your thoughts on this track, Arnold? Thoughts on Robson Girl?
So just a little fun fact about Robson in general. It's apparently like the Rodeo Drive or Fifth Avenue, but in Vancouver. So it's like a real richy, snooty area, like pretty expensive. Um, and in this song, he's hoping to just get to be a girl's love. Again, the guitar is good but unchanged, and I have a feeling, he's in love with his certain pedal settings to the point where he's like, I'm just gonna stick with this for the whole ride, and he's just in love with that same tone, and this is where I'm kind of getting like a little upset and frustrated with the album, where it's like, yes, this is good. If you like put it somewhere else, or it's in a shuffle mix or something like that, but in an album, one after another, with a little bit of a taste something different, and then going back again and again, this is something where I get a little bit bothered, and it's like you as a creative person need to do a little bit more, in my opinion.
I feel that. Like the first time I heard this song and it really stood out to me, it was on like a mix on Spotify. And I just realized it was Mac, and I looked down, and I was like, oh shit, I have heard this song before, but just not like this. Uh,
Mhm.
yeah, kind of the same too, because like for the longest time, this whole album, like the rest of it, aside from like Viceroy and Dreaming, I just never paid too much attention to them because, like you guys, it was just kind of the same to me. Nothing really stood out, and yeah. So I feel a lot with what you said about the song.
Uh, Raymond, Raymond, what are your thoughts on Robson Girl?
Uh, Personally, I love this song. I will say that it's probably my favorite song on the album, even though I gave high praises owed to Viceroy. Um, but I do agree with uh, Arnold and Eugene that it's one of those. It's kind of at the point of this album where it kind of gets like old, and you kind of want something different from Mac. Uh, but if you were to put this track into like a playlist or something like that, it definitely would be one of the highlights of the playlist, in my opinion. And that's originally how I heard um, this song too. So yeah, I don't know. It's both like a blessing and a curse, like, or not really. It's a double edged sword, where it's like it is a really solid track, but it's also just like at this point of the album where it is getting kind of old.
Yeah, so I do agree with you guys. This is a very it is a good song. Again, it's very pleasant, and I don't mean to just echo everybody else's opinion, but again, this is another song where there's very little done to shake up the instrumental palette of the record. And this is, halfway through the album. When you're halfway through the album, or a little bit over halfway, this is the sixth track on the album. When you're a little bit over halfway or halfway through, I think that's the most crucial point at an album on an album's track listing, because that's what informs you about whether or not you want to keep going. You know what I mean? So if I didn't know that I have to listen to this whole album for the sake of doing this review, or if I didn't know that one of my favorite Mac DeMarco songs, independent of this album, was coming up later in the track listing, at this point in the album, I would have just kind of just I would have tapped out on it because I'm just like I'm just hearing almost the same song. I've heard almost the same song 5 different times with just one song that's different. Everything else has been just about the same. So, and that is the biggest problem that I have with this album is, and you guys, I made this point when we talked about it in the beginning, how I said, and you guys have proven that point, where I said, sprinkle this song on a playlist, put it on shuffle or something, and any of these songs are highlights of a playlist, of a shuffle, of a whatever, right? You hear this song individually, and all of these are great, but there's a problem when they're just all together, and all you hear is like, oh yeah, that sounded really good. Yeah, this sounds good too, but it sounds good because it sounds like the other song that sounded good, and it does start to get tiring, and it does start to get worrisome because at this point I'm wondering, do I need to listen to the second half of the album, or do I already kind of get it? Like, I feel like at this point, this this album has shown me all its cards. I know everything this album has going for it at this point because I've heard 5 songs going off of the same formula. And like I said, if I didn't know I had to review it, or if I didn't know that my favorite song was coming up, I, to be completely honest, I would have stopped listening by now. But for the sake of this podcast, we had to keep going. So let's get into the next track. The stars keep on calling my name. Um, I was really excited to hear this one based on the title alone. But let's get into your thoughts on it, Arnold. The stars keep on calling my name. How do you feel about this one?
So this song is pretty good. It's got a nice beat to it. Maybe a different feel on like every other instrument. But the guitar kind of seems like you didn't change up too much compared to the last few songs. Uh, I do like the simplicity that Mac is inviting a girl to skip town, just go wherever with him, even though he doesn't even know where to go. So it's kind of like I'm in love with you, but and I want to go places with you, but I'm so in love with you that I just don't even know what to do with myself type thing. So I don't know where I would take you. I just love your company. So I like that. I like the lyrics in this, but guitar is still kind of putting me off, and the vocals are not too different compared to the last few songs. You maybe hear them a little bit better in this track, but not enough to where I'd be like, yeah, this is stand out. I like these vocals.
For sure.
Okay.
Yeah, this was a song that
Franny.
oh sorry. This was a song that when it after like having the same kind of feel for the past few songs, I feel like this one shakes it up at least a little for me. Just something about it is just kind of different. Maybe it's just the instruments, how they feel a bit more lively to me. Maybe it's just what he's talking about. This way, it just stood out a bit more to me. I feel like it's kind of more like Freaking Out the Neighborhood in the sense of how it kind of really grabs you. Yeah. If I remember correctly, too, this might be the one. It might be a different one that has like a really cool guitar solo on it, and it had like a lot of kind of like blues psychedelic rock vibes to it. I think it's this song. It might be a different one, but if it is this one, then that's what I really liked about it. That kind of made it different from the rest for me.
Okay. Raymond, let's hear your thoughts on the stars keep on calling my name.
Honestly, this is about the part of the album where I usually stop listening. So anything after this, I pretty much don't have a opinion on. The only other song that I do like after this, I'm gonna be honest, is "My Kind of Woman." But
Hell
yeah,
yeah.
this is the part. Yeah, this is the part where I kind of like zone out and kind of forget everything because I just think like the first half is a lot stronger. And yeah, so my opinions don't really have any.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. So, I like this track. Again, like both of you said, there is a slight change on the instrumental, which was enough to kind of quell my anxieties about this album sounding the same. The lyrics being about that whole like let's skip town, let's run away together. I like that because it's another song on the long tradition of songs that we end up reviewing on this podcast that end up being about lovers running away. We had Carly Rae Jepsen's "Run Away with Me." We had the Swellers' "Runaway." Now we've got Mac DeMarco's "The Stars Keep on Calling My Name." So I wonder how many of these songs are going to accumulate over the course of this podcast. But I
It's a
mean, it is
trope.
a very,
It's a trope,
it is a,
honestly.
yeah, it is a trope, but it's one that I like for some reason. I knocked some coins over. Uh, Songs that follow this trope, songs that are about this kind of like young, reckless love of like fuck it, let's just run away. Like all we need is each other type deal. Always hit a soft spot for me. I like these kinds of songs a lot. So it's hard for me to determine whether I like this song because I like this song or if I like this song because it kind of hits that spot for me where songs that follow this kind of lyrical theme I'm naturally a fan of. But I liked it. I like this song. It did make me feel like I'm down to keep listening. But then again, like I said, part of why I kept listening was because I knew my favorite song was coming up, and we're at that moment where we need to talk about uh, my favorite Mac DeMarco song. Let's get into it. "My Kind of Woman." Arnold, your thoughts on "My Kind of Woman"?
Uh,
Things keep
yeah,
falling
man,
off my desk here.
you keep dropping stuff. So I
Yeah,
will say
they're called facts, bro. I'm dropping facts.
I will say I do like this song. This is the song that maybe got me into Mac DeMarco, but it was actually a cover that got that I heard that like some another band covering this. The band's called "This Is Too Difficult." They would cover this song a lot during their live shows, and I was like, like that's a pretty good song. Um, and then I found out it wasn't their song, so I had to check out Mac DeMarco, and this is what got me, knowing him. And the vocals on this are actually done really well. This is too difficult. Does kind of a little bit of a different feel, different vibe. Um, I like Mac DeMarco's version or the original version actually.
Yeah.
A little bit more than I would. This is too difficult. Out of all the songs, this is probably the most rememberable song. It would be this, and then maybe "Dreamin'," uh, and then maybe after that, it'd be "Freaking Out the Neighborhood" for me. The twang in the guitars feels a little bit more dreamy, a little bit more different compared to his other stuff. So I'm glad that I'm finally changing my palette a little bit. Like he's giving me something different. He's feeding us something different. Um, and the song is a pretty beautiful song. I feel it. I love the lyrics. I like the feel, and it's all around like mint.
All
For
right.
sure. Right on.
Okay. Yeah. Eugene, thoughts on "My Kind of Woman"?
Um, for honestly, for the longest time, this song never really stood out to me. Even starting out, I'm having a little trouble remembering it. I don't know why that is. Maybe it's just because it was so far down on the album that I just kind of couldn't pay attention to most of the songs anymore. It is a really good song though. Like re-listening to it, I definitely saw a lot of the things I wasn't appreciating in it before, especially a lot of the guitar and the whole sound of the record. I feel like this is one of those songs that he really like kind of figured out like what his sound is in. I feel like that shows a lot in this one for sure. But yeah,
All right, cool. Raymond, your thoughts on My Kind of Woman?
This is a great track. This is probably my favorite track uh, in the second half because it's the only track I remember. Uh, but yeah, it's a really good one. Probably one of my favorites. I think uh, my favorite thing about this track is the live versions are really good for whatever reason. Uh, and yeah, other than that, I think it's a strong point in the second part of this album.
Okay. Yeah, I very much like Arnold. My introduction to this song was through local band This Is Too Difficult. Uh, and I do feel like that plays a role into why I love this song so much. But even listening to this original version, it is the highlight of the album for me. It is my favorite song on the record, for the reason that the vocals are actually way more prominent here, as opposed to other songs where the vocals kind of get buried in the mix a little bit. So I don't know if that was by design, but I like it because you get to hear the lyrics more on this one, and such a sweet, heartfelt song. I like it a lot, and this is the song that I was alluding to, where I felt like the guitar melody to "Ode to Viceroy" feels eerily similar to the guitar melody that you hear on "My Kind of Woman." And if I had to choose between the two, I feel like it was done way better here. And yeah, it does feel like it took him eight tracks into the record is when I feel like he really got comfortable with the sound, enough to that it still has all the same elements of the songs that we've heard throughout this record, but it still sounds different. It sounds more refined. It sounds like he allowed himself to play around with that sound a little bit, and make a song that still fits into that aesthetic, but it's still able to stand out. It's still able to sound different. Vocally, it's probably one of the better, if not the best, vocal performance delivered on this album. And yeah, this is definitely the high point of the record. This is the highlight of the album for me. And if there's any song on this album that I would be able to listen to like every day, it's My Kind of Woman. It's definitely the high point of the record for me. And now we get into the next song, whose name I have a hard time pronouncing. Boza.
Booza.
Boza.
Boza.
Booza. Uh,
Boza.
if you know how to say it, let us know in the comments, because I'm just gonna say. It feels like uh, I just say Boza, and I just think of like Macho Man in the first Spider-Man when he's Boza. You know, I just want to say it with that inflection, like Boza.
The
That's just
cream of the crop.
so that made me like it, but that doesn't have anything to do with the song. So let's get into what we like or not like about the song. Arnold, your thoughts on Boza?
All right, brother, I'm gonna give it to you like this. Boza is a simple and twangy instrumental track. Uh, just cause, and it's a little different, just because you have Mac not singing or talking like he does in his songs. Um, and I will say I do get a little bit. I don't know if you guys know the Meat Puppets. I get a little bit of vibes from the Meat, like a Meat Puppets track, specifically the track "I'm a Mindless Idiot." And I don't know if it's just because like it's that same. It's like a little higher, like more down on the guitar type song, or just because I listened to that song a lot during middle school. Like I would probably listen to it 10 times in a row and then just continue on with the album. Uh, but this song is pretty good, twangy, simple instrumental track, and I can get behind this. It's not, if you put this on a playlist, it wouldn't do anything unless it's an instrumental playlist only, like instrumental onlys. So, good song. I like it. But in the album, it kind of feels like maybe just a bonus track, or interlude.
I feel that.
All right. Good.
Yeah, same kind of. I feel like it's definitely kind of like a filler song. Maybe it was intended to be that way, maybe not. I think it's a good song though. I really like the instruments with it. Mac is really good with like the types of melodies and things that he does. I just really like. I can really appreciate that from him. Aside from that, I don't really have too much to say about it though.
All right. Raymond. Oh wait, he said he doesn't really have any opinions here, but uh,
Yeah, I don't really have any opinions on the track, so yeah.
all
Great.
right. Stick around though, because at the end of this, we're gonna talk about our thoughts in general about the album. So don't
Of course,
leave,
we rate.
Yeah, I'll
and we're
stay.
gonna rate it. Awesome. So Boza. I like it. It's a good instrumental track. Yeah, it does sound kind of like filler, maybe an interlude, but I don't know if I would call it an interlude because those definitely tend to lead into a track. I don't feel like this track really does that. Uh, Again, it's a pleasant song. It sounds pretty, sounds nice. Nothing about it is outwardly bad, but nothing really stands out to it for me. It's nice. I could imagine myself, driving during the sunset, windows down, crank this bad boy up, and just have a real chill drive. And that's
Mhm.
kind of it. It's good driving music, which I think is an underrated genre. It's a good song to just cruise to, and I dig it. I dig it. Can't say more than that. It's nice. I like it. So now that we talked about Boza, let's get into Cheryl. Cheryl, uh, Arnold,
Sure.
thoughts on this track?
So, Cheryl, this is actually an uneventful song for me. It just feels like you just went back to the first half of the album. But this song is about his grandmother, so it does play in the theme of his family's included in this album. But besides that, there's not much of a difference. Can't really say too much about this song.
I
Okay.
really can't either. I barely remember the song, to be honest with you. It just didn't leave that much of an impact with me.
All right. Uh, Raymond has no opinion on this, so we'll just come up to me. And I will say that I agree with you guys at this point on the record. Like I said, I feel like we've seen the all of the tricks that this album has to offer. Uh, Nothing about it is outwardly bad. Again, because none of these songs are. None of these tracks are bad per se. They're only bad in the context of this record. And I tried to get into it being about his grandmother and songs that do kind of have that personal angle kind of leading into them are tracks that I enjoy. But when you've heard almost 9 instances of this for an entire record, yeah, you get to a point where you kind of get out of it. So it's nice. That's what I have to say about a lot of this album is that it's nice.
It's nice.
Yeah.
It's nice. So there we go. Next we have Still Together. Still Together, guys. How do you feel about this track?
So this is the last track on the album. We get something different. Hooray, hurrah. And it's because it's on a acoustic guitar. So Mac kind of gets rid of his twangy bullshit and sits his ass down with an acoustic guitar. And honestly, like the song is delicate, peaceful. Sounds like something from a B sides or like a bonus track because it's acoustic guitar. And I do like his vocals on this, especially when he's like singing the. I think it's the chorus, and he's like, like, it's like it's long. I'm not gonna do the whole thing, but
Yeah.
it's good. I actually like that part for some reason. Even though he sounds like he's like swallowing his tongue to say the beginning part of together. Uh, but as for a closer, a little mild, just because it feels like more like a B-side, or a bonus track after you listen to like nothing but dead air for like a minute or two. Like something that you would
Yeah.
expect on a CD.
Okay.
For sure, I feel it. This is probably one of my favorite songs off this album. Just because of the fact that it is really different. Especially the way how it's on acoustic and he hits that high note. It really reminds me of the Dirty Projectors. If you guys know who they are,
Yeah.
yeah, like it really reminds me of that. And the song is just super creative, and I feel like again, like it seems kind of weird that it's on this record, but I feel like it ends it perfectly because we'll get into it when we talk about the record as a whole, but I feel like there's kind of like an underlying narrative with the whole record, with how I feel like it's just kind of like about his life at the time. And if you kind of put this song after Dreaming, I feel like it's kind of like he got there, like he reached what he was dreaming about. He is finally in love, because I feel like the song's about his girlfriend. And I feel like it's like he couldn't have ended this record any better, really.
All right. Yeah. So, um, if you watched this podcast before, you know what I'm gonna say. I'm a stickler for the closers. I feel like it's important to start an album strong and to end an album strong. And I like this closer. I don't love it. I like it. It's cool that he does something different. Doing an acoustic track as the album closer, uh, I it is a very often used technique for album closings to do an acoustic track because the same reason that Eugene brought up, it is a great way to kind of bring attention to, closing out the narrative and just, kind of giving you that sense of like, hey, listen to this because this is closing out the story. This is telling you what's that we've reached the end of whatever. And in that regard, hey, we got a special guest on tonight's episode.
She just wanted
Uh,
to say hi.
Cute
what's
kitty,
up? We've
Victoria's
got
kitty.
Raymond and the dogs and Eugene and the cat. So I think it gets the job done as a closing track. I do like the lyrical notion of like, hey, he did achieve what he was looking for. He did find that woman.
Oh,
Oh
I
no,
think Franny froze. He found that woman, and
you
then
found the
he
woman, bro.
disappeared. Ooh, let's see. I think he'll pop back up whenever he can. Um,
For sure.
but what you know, I wanted him to finish his statement, but
Yeah, I really
one
liked
thing,
what he was saying.
yeah, yeah. I guess we'll just have to wait around for like a minute or two. But
Yeah.
while that's happening, um, I think, yeah, I kind of get your point that like changing it to an acoustic guitar kind of makes you listen more, just because it's so different, and it's
Mhm.
like almost like a maybe it feels like a storyteller feel, like at the end of the movie, like the narrator was actually the person telling the story to these kids or something like that.
Mhm.
If you catch my drift, so I can kind of see a little bit of a that into it, so it kind of makes you pay attention.
Yeah, I feel that too. It feels kind of a lot like just like Fireside, just like this is like we're in the moment type thing, Just
Hmm.
with this song, like I really like things that are very kind of real to the point and relatable. And I feel like Mac is really good at that. And with
Hmm.
his writing, I take a lot of his words very literally, like
Hmm.
from freaking out. No, not freaking out. From cooking up something good. With everything he said, like I just take that very literal. He's painting the surroundings of like his home to me. And with this song
Hmm.
too, I feel like he's just really talking about his relationship. And yeah, I just feel like it's just a really good song. Very passionate.
Yeah, it's kind of like he's opening up to a lot, like his audience, about like his personal life, his addictions, what he wants in life. A nice girl, what he dreams to have, and then ultimately he gets, he's content with his what he has right now. At
Yeah.
the end of the song. Um, I don't know. Oh, Franny's back on. Let me add him to the stream. All right, you added to the stream, bro.
Welcome back.
Hey, I don't know what happened. I had to get on my phone, so
All good.
I'm here. Internet kind of went out Right now, my laptop can't connect, so I'm here from the iPhone. What I miss? What are we talking about?
Well, we were just like giving we're like I was agreeing with you guys that the acoustic guitar like definitely like makes you listen more and maybe a storyteller vibe at the end of the song. And then we talked about how he opens up, his life with the whole album with his addictions, family, his girls, dreams, what he wants. So yeah, we're just kind of like generalizing the whole album together.
All right, cool. So, that being said, we did go through the entire album track by track. So this is the moment where we get to giving our final thoughts on the album. Now that you've heard everybody else's point of view, has your thoughts on this album changed? Have you seen anything else in it that you haven't seen before? Do you see this in a different light? Let's start with Arnold. How do you feel about this record now that we've gone through the entire thing?
I think this album's a pretty good album because individually you have good songs, but I don't know if I would sit down and just listen to the whole album again. I would more likely just like hit the high points. Maybe listen to the first two tracks. Maybe I would definitely listen to the first two, and then Freaking Out the Neighborhood, and from there I'd probably skip to Stars Calling My Name and My Kind of Woman, and then listening to a Boza just because it reminds me of my like when I was younger, and then that's about it. I would say like this album when it came out was great. It did change the industry a little bit, but because of this album, we got a lot of people who just kind of rode the Mac DeMarco train, just like a lot of people rode the Beach House, no, the Best Coast train, and you got a lot of more bands sounding like that. And that's not his problem. That's not Best Coast's problem. That's the industry's problem. So it's not his fault. He was definitely an innovator of sorts. And his albums now sound a lot different than what from two. So he's done a little bit of different things. So good and pleasant, at times boring, and somewhat not memorable, only by like a few tracks.
All right, Eugene. Now that we've heard everybody's thoughts on the record, how do you feel about it?
I think it's a really cool record. I feel like it's really nice, and I really like the vibe. After listening to it again, I feel like I kind of saw a lot more about what it could be about than I had previously. But nothing about it really stands to me like that. That's kind of the thing that used to happen the first time you listen to something.
Yeah.
But I feel like with this one, it kind of really set the bar for him, and also the scene in general. Kind of like what you were saying. Like other bands kind of maybe saw this and were like, oh, we should probably step up our game a little bit in terms of like what we're doing. And like I feel like Mac personally kind of really figured out what his style is with this record, because with Salad Days coming right after it, like that album put him on the map, and like that album is just so good, and that's just kind of like who he is, his musical style in my eyes. So I feel like it's kind of underappreciated in that light, because I feel like it's a really big stepping stone to put him to where he is today, especially with how his music has evolved. Yeah.
All right, cool. We lost Raymond for the second time. Oh, nope, there he is. Raymond, what are your thoughts on Mac DeMarco's 2 now that we've heard everybody else's thoughts? How are you feeling?
I think it's a pretty solid album. It's definitely not my favorite out of Mac's other albums, but it's pretty solid. I have a coworker walking towards me. Okay.
Ask them what they think.
No, we're just grabbing something. No, but I think it's a solid album. But I think after listening to it again, I realized its flaws and the fact that a lot of the tracks do sound the same. But in that sense, I think it's also still like a good like lazy Sunday listening album.
Definitely.
Yeah. So overall, are we doing final ratings or are we just doing opinions?
Hold on. I'm just gonna give my thoughts on the album, then we go to final ratings. So just give me 1 second here. I like this record. Like I said, I can't say that I love it. More than anything, it is a pleasant album to listen to. Nothing about it is ever truly bad. The highs are really high and the lows aren't really all that low. But I don't know. I feel like there's not a lot of stakes to this album, which is what makes it harder to kind of get invested into what it may be about. Um, as for its influence overall, I think this album really influenced the aesthetics of the scene moving forward. Like how many bands started, purposely doing lo-fi sounding recordings, or just the look, like the fucking Levi's slim regulars all the way cuffed up with the off-color Vans and stuff. All of that just kind of style, like something that we still see to this day. Was he the first to do it? No, but did he put that particular aesthetic on the map? Definitely. And it just kind of sends shockwaves across the scene. You see a lot of bands going for like this kind of retro-y analog sound for their instrumentation, the production, everything they choose to do. They choose to do it purposely the most lo-fi way possible because an album like this succeeded. And I think because of that, it does have its place as an impactful album in the scene, an important album in underground indie rock history. An overall pleasant experience. I agree with Arnold. I think I wouldn't listen to the whole album all over again. I think it's just more of like picking and choosing what are essential songs. Which ones are the ones that stick out the most, which ones are the ones that I would really like to listen to. But yeah, there's really nothing that is bad about this record, just except for the fact that a lot of this sounds the same. But if it sounds the same, if he did it again, is because it worked the last time, right? I think he really took a very if it ain't broke, don't fix it approach to this record. But the moments when he chose to kind of switch it up a little bit, and even if it's just the most minuscule change, the moments that he did choose to change up his style were the highlights. Is when it worked best. So seeing him now, kind of taking a more experimental approach to his songwriting, um, makes me put this in the bottom of his discography, just because he went on to be more creative and more experimental on other records. But overall, good album. Not great, but it's a good album. That being said, this is what Raymond alluded to. Final ratings. This could be, blank out of 10, blank out of 100, however you want to do it. Arnold, ratings to this album, or Mac DeMarco's 2. What do you rate it? What do you think?
I'd probably think like a 60, maybe a 63 out of 100. That's my rating. Like definitely would want you to listen to it at least once, but nothing where I'd go back and be like, "Fuck yeah, this album's like dope." Definitely select tracks.
I feel that.
Okay.
I'm kind of the same. I'd give it like a 6 out of 10. Like, there's some really good music on this. Some of my favorite songs of his are on this, but I don't think it's anything spectacular. I don't think it's anything really different, like at the time for sure. But like right now, especially compared to what else he's done, I think it just kind of gets lost in all the noise.
All right. Okay. Raymond, final rating for Mac DeMarco's 2.
I think I personally have to give it like a 73 out of 100 or something like that. Maybe like a B plus, even though it's technically a C. Um, it's like a solid thing, solid album, but I would say if you're gonna listen to it like on a really lazy day, kind of like a beach day. But other than that, it's not like an essential Mac DeMarco album. Um, listen to This Old Dog. That's a better one.
All right. Okay. So I feel like so you guys gave it like a 6.3, a 6, and like about a 7-ish. I'm gonna be a little bit harsher, but not by much. I think I gave it like a solid 5.5. Reason being, it is such a low stakes album. Nothing, like I said, it just a lot of the same, and that made it like what kept me going, what kept me listening to the album was knowing that a song I liked even before I heard the full album, a song that I liked, you know, before this, knowing that I had to listen to all of it for the sake of a review, is what got me all the way through the album. Um, I don't want to rate it lower than that because, like I said, it's not bad. Musically, instrumentally, the performances are good, great in some spaces, but I just wish there was more variety. I'd give it a higher rating if it was a more varied album, if Mac had taken a couple more risks. Um, that's what would make it rated higher. But unfortunately, I can't get over just how uniform the sound is throughout the entire album. How everything sounds very much the same, and because of that, I think I'd give it about a 5.5. That's where I'm going with it. And yeah, so we went through that. Now, can y'all see me still? Am I having trouble here too?
You're good.
Yeah, you're good.
I'm good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What the fuck is my...
All right. He's
Okay. So now we're nearing the end of the podcast here. What we do now is, do y'all have anything you want to plug? Anything you guys want to talk about?
I got nothing else new to plug.
I gotta go back to work.
Oh no, he's gone.
Franny's done.
Shit.
What do you got to plug, Raymond?
I don't really got much to plug. Just listen to Acid Wax on KZSM at 4 o'clock every Wednesday. It's on kzsm.org. We listen to vinyls and then we talk about them. Except we don't do a track by track thing. We only do 3 tracks. And then we try to talk about existentialism. So, yeah, listen to that. And then, other than that, if you're in the Austin area, come visit me at Buzzball because I'll be here now.
All right.
It was great talking to you guys. I got to go back to work.
All right.
All right. Later,
That
man.
money.
Later, man.
Okay. So, yeah, sorry about all of the technical difficulties today. I don't know what's going on, but thank you guys for hanging out with us and listening to our thoughts on Mac DeMarco's 2. Big shout out to Raymond for hopping on last minute. Big shout out to Eugene for his first appearance on the podcast. And hopefully we get you on a couple more episodes. And
Oh yeah, that sounds great. That was a lot of fun.
Before my internet dies on me again, I just want to say good night, guys. Take care. We love y'all. See you guys next week.